Okay. So we concluded the Mamar, but I'd rather conclude it because the Mamar has more chapters than what we did. We went up until chapter 17. But this is the part of the Mamar that we can follow. It's about basically sinas chinam and how we could recognize and through introspection to see whether what we're doing is coming from the right place or it could be coming from Yeshus and sinas chinam and so on and so forth. So up until now, we were learning about the negative, what the klipa of Midyan is. That this is a klipa of division and separation and hate. And that's the klipa that Moshe Rabbeinu was fighting, thank you very much, when he was fighting against the war against Midyan. So first I want to give this out, even though you all have a Yom probably, and you can look it up. And I want to show you, I mentioned this in the beginning of the class, but I just want to show you where this is inside. And this is the second thing. Another thing which I want to speak about, oops, Mrs. Yafi, I made a mistake. I wanted English on one side and Yiddish on the other side. You gave me a double Yiddish. There should have been two small little sheets there.
I didn't copy them.
Oh, no. This is the Yiddish. This is the Yiddish. It shows you must be very fond of Yiddish. But it was this, you don't have it here, is it?
No.
Okay. So.
You took two back.
No, I took these two, and you want that. Take a look again. There's no rush. I will use the Yiddish. Okay, so that's it. If you can give this out, one of each.
So I'm just making the English.
Just the English, yeah. So first,
There's English here.
what?
There's English.
Yeah, one of them has English, the other one doesn't.
But these together.
No, they're two separate Hayom Yoms.
Oh.
So one of them is a Hayom Yom of the 28th of Tammuz. And it says the following. Each of the Rebbes, meaning the Rebbes of Chabad, had Maimarim designated especially for the purpose of purifying the atmosphere. In general, we know when you learn Torah, it has an impact on the world and it refines the atmosphere. Where you're in a room, in a place that Torah is being studied, it's a more refined atmosphere. If it's a room that people in that room speak nonsense or worse than nonsense, then the atmosphere in the room is a more coarse, spiritually speaking, atmosphere. So when the Rebbe said the Maimed, this had an effect on the world to purify the world. We know we have air purifiers today. So this is a spiritual air purifier. Every 2 or 3 years, that specific Rebbe would review and recite them publicly to sort of refresh that effect on the world. So then he goes on to say, one of those special Mamar, apparently each Rebbe had more than one. One of them was the Mamar Heichaltzu, printed on the Kuti Torah from the Alter Rebbe. So our Mamar that we learned, Heichaltzu, is based on that Mamar from the Alter Rebbe. One of the Mamar of the Mitul Rebbe is Yofi Shoachas. One of the Tzemach Tzedek is Matovu. One of my grandfather, Rebbe Marash, is Micha Mocha. And my father's is the one which is known as V'yadaita Moskva. What was the previous Rebbe's Mamar? What was our Rebbe's Mamar? We don't know, and we can't even guess because we have no idea. Okay, that's number one. The second thing I want to show you is the other Hayom Yom of Iyar. We just had it recently. And that is, this is the famous Hayom Yom that is related to our Maimon. So our Maimon was talking all about the negative, what's not supposed to be. Let's talk a little bit about the positive, so what is supposed to be. So on Iyar it says like this. Again, well, Mrs. Yaffe will bring up the English soon. We have?
Yeah, in the other side.
Hmm?
Printed
Oh,
both sides.
here, we don't have that.
In English.
Oh, I see what she did. She did 2 English and then 2 Hebrew.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I'm so sorry. Mrs. Yaffe, I hope you hear me. We have it. You did it different. We have the 2 English and we have the 2 Hebrew.
I did it the way you gave it to me.
Right.
You gave me both English.
So I didn't realize you did both English. One on one. I'm sorry. Okay. As long as we can start the day with a laugh, so it's working. So in the English, take a look where it says, Hey Iyar, the 5th of Iyar. So the Alter Rebbe received the following teaching from the Baal Shem Tov. No, from the Tzaddik Rabbi Mordechai, who heard it from the Baal Shem Tov. So apparently the Alter Rebbe met this Rabbi Mordechai. Rabbi Mordechai was a student of the Baal Shem Tov. And he said this in the name of the Baal Shem Tov. The soul may descend to this world, live 70 or 80 years in order to do a Jew a material favor and certainly a spiritual favor. Let me explain the power in this statement. It's known that every single person in this world, all of us, the truth is this applies to Yidden and it applies to non-Jews. Everyone has a mission. Hashem didn't just open the window and souls came dropping down and flopping into bodies and running all over the place randomly. Every single human being was specifically planned and designed by Hashem to be in the world. And not only that, but Hashem designated that this neshama should be in the world in this time of history, in this geographic location, and they should be born to these set of parents, and they should be born on this and this day, and this hour, and even this and this minute, and even this and this second. And when you look at your birth certificate, you'll find out that they actually mark the hour, the minute, and the second when you were born. So in Shemayim, they also do that. And it's all related to the mission, which means in addition to the fact that we all have a common mission, all non-Jews have a common mission, and all Jews have a common mission. But within that, every single individual has a specific shlichus. There's a specific reason why Hashem put me into this world. There's something specific, which is my specific shlichus. What is it, and why is that my specific shlichus? There could be 2 reasons for it. One reason could be that most of the neshamas, almost not only most, but you would say like 99.99 neshamas in the world today have been here before, and we are Gilgulim, we are reincarnation of a previous lifetime, or a few previous lifetimes. And when something is incomplete in a previous lifetime, the neshama is sent down again to complete it. And therefore, that something is the main reason why the neshama is here, to complete it. So imagine the neshama would daven and learn and do mitzvahs and do a lot of wonderful things, but doesn't do that one thing, which is the reason why it came down in the first place. In a sense, it hasn't fulfilled its original mission. And this is the story which you've heard from me more than once, but I'll repeat it briefly, the story of the Baal Shem Tov, that he was resisting to become Nizgala, to be revealed. His Rebbe told him the time has come to no longer be hidden. You have to come out in the open and teach Hasidus in the open, and he didn't want to. And there was a dialogue going on between the two of them for a very long time. In some place it says for 6 years. And finally, he was told that if you don't become revealed, that's it, I'm not going to speak to you anymore. You have to do this. And then he was told the reason why his neshama came to this world, and finally that convinced him to become Nizgala. And what was it? That when he said to him, not he said to him, but he gave over a message through someone else, that 200 years earlier, before the Baal Shem Tov, there was a Yid who lived in Tzfas, a simple Yid, and this Yid, one night, heard a knock on the door. It was after midnight. When he asked who was there, the answer was Eliyahu Hanavi. And this person walked in. As soon as he walked in, the whole house lit up. The children that were sleeping woke up, the little babies, and they're all dancing and singing. And this person identified himself as Eliyahu Hanavi, and he said to him that on the day of your bar mitzvah, you did something incredible. And as a result of that, it was decreed in Shemayim that I should come to you and tell you that secret that every person in the world wants to know. But on the merit of what you did, I will tell you that secret. And what's the secret? When the Mashiach is coming. But Eliyahu Hanavi said, however, I'd like to know, and I'm curious to know, what is it that you did on the day of your bar mitzvah? And he answered, what I did on the day of bar mitzvah, I did for Hashem alone, and I don't share that with anyone else because I didn't do it for reasons that to be complimented or people to think highly of me. I did it purely for Hashem. And no matter how much he tried to convince him to tell him what he did, he wouldn't say. Until he finally said, if you're not going to tell me what you did, and I'm not going to tell you this secret. And his answer was, no. And that's what happened. Eliyahu Hanavi left. As soon as he left, all that bright light that was shining was gone. And Eliyahu Hanavi went back to Shemayim. In the heavenly court, there was even a bigger commotion that this man, so amazing that he gave up this reward because he wanted it to be purely for Hashem himself. So this time they sent him down again. And being that he was a simple Jew, his reward would be that Eliyahu Hanavi would teach him Torah. And he became a very big tzaddik. Over the years, he became a hidden tzaddik, a tzaddik who had vast knowledge of Torah. And after his life ended and he came up Shemayim, they said that really he deserves to be one of the highest places in Gan Eden. But there's one thing that he didn't do, and that is he didn't share his light and his teachings with anybody else. And therefore he has to come down again for that purpose. So he told the Baal Shem Tov, you are that person. And if you decide not to share your teachings with others, then you will no longer have any purpose in this world. Then the neshama is going to have to go back up. And then he became revealed. So that means that even though the Baal Shem Tov had done amazing things and he reached the highest of levels and he davened and learned that he was who he was, that's why he became the Baal Shem Tov. Nevertheless, had he not done this, he wouldn't have fulfilled the purpose for what he came down for. So what's a person's purpose? We don't know. We look at people like the Rebbe, we know what the purpose is. His purpose is to be the leader of Klal Yisrael. And Tzemach Tzedek was to be the leader of Klal Yisrael in that generation. And Moshe Rabbeinu was the leader of Yisrael in that generation. What about other things? So many people have made tremendous contributions to the world on a large scale. Let's say this woman who was the first one to establish yeshiva for women, the Beis Yaakov. Obviously, that must have been part of her shlichus. Maybe she had other things, but that must have been part of her shlichus. She came down to this world with this new innovation, and that was Hashem, for some reason, chose this neshama to bring this new thing into the world. There could be another reason why people have a shlichus, not because of reincarnation, but just it has to do with the source of their neshama, wherever it comes from in the spiritual realm. Therefore, it's the neshama that is suitable and it has all the precise tools and capacity to accomplish that particular shlichus. That's why Hashem says this neshama down at that time. I would think that every shliach who is a shliach in a certain city, there's no doubt that's part of his main shliach, is why it came down. Rabbi J.J. Hecht, he's the one that used to translate all the sikhs of the Rebbe when the Rebbe spoke to children. And he's the one who actually initially, the Rebbe chose him. The Rebbe called him in and chose that he should be the one to support the school. So he once said this publicly, and if you want to look it up, you can actually see it on YouTube today because it became public. And he's speaking about the times of the Frierdiker Rebbe. He was yet here in the times of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And he established this what was called the Wednesday hour, religious hour, which means to designate an hour that where kids from public school can step out of public school and learn Torah for an hour. And then he made the camp Amuna for little girls. He was involved with education for children. So he said one time when he was talking to the Frierdiker Rebbe about this subject, the Frierdiker Rebbe said to him, your neshama came down to this world to inspire children. And he goes, so I know that that's my purpose. And if I don't do that, I go back up, he says. In other words, he knew that this is the purpose of his neshama. Very few people know exactly what is their purpose. But through Hashgacha Pratis, and especially those that are connected to the Rebbe, and they ask a question, should I go here? Should I do this? Should I be in business? Should I be in teaching? Should I be a shliach? And the Rebbe gives them clear instructions. The Rebbe's answer to us is always according to the purpose of my neshama. So everyone has a purpose. And when you think of a purpose, you think of something really grandiose. Like I said, shliach of a city, establishing innovation, some new project in the world. Not everybody is on that scale, but everybody does something somewhere, someplace in their community. What it's saying here is something amazing, that it's possible that the reason why a neshama comes down from its place on high and spends 70, 80 years in this world, which for a neshama is a little bit of a torment because of all the challenges, could be just to come down to do a favor to another person, begashmias. Not only beruchnis, just begashmias. Help one time. It's worth it for the neshama to come down, and it's possible. That's the whole purpose why the neshama came down. It's been designated that neshama A has to come down to help neshama B. It gives us a whole different outlook to understand the greatness and how amazing it is just to do one act of Ahavas Yisrael. Sorry. So now I want to read something to you from the Frierdiker Rebbe about this subject. I'm not giving it out because I don't have this in English, but I'll read to you what it says, a few things that are related to this. So the Frierdiker Rebbe tells the story that one of the students of the Maggid was Reb Mendel of Horodok, Reb Mendel of Vitebsk. He was one of the oldest students of the Maggid in Mizrich. He was a brilliant person, a genius in Nigla and in Chassidus. The Alter Rebbe said that when he would give Torah insights, the Alter Rebbe said on himself, when we know who the Alter Rebbe was, that you had to really concentrate to be able to follow what he was teaching. So every once in a while, he and the other elder students of the Maggid would gather together and they would go over the teachings that they heard from the Mezritcher Maggid. Had like little Farbrengens. One time, they were sitting together. Reb Mendel of Horodok, he was like the older, most respected students. In fact, after the Maggid passed away, the Alter Rebbe used to relate to him to some extent like a Rebbe. So they were very much into discussing one of the teachings of the Rebbe and discussing it. And one of the Chassidim of the Mezritcher Maggid, his name was Reb Zev. This person, no, not his person, his son-in-law, his name was Reb Zev, he ran into the shul and he said that his son-in-law is in a critical condition. And what does he want? He was crying and he wants that they should give him a bracha. And they said, who are we to give a bracha? Go to the Rebbe, why are you going to us? And he just kept crying. So because he was crying, they started to sing. They thought that he'd calm down, but the louder they sang, the louder he was crying. Suddenly the Alter Rebbe stands up, and the Alter Rebbe says, have you forgotten this teaching from the Baal Shem Tov, given over by Rav Mordechai HaTzadik? That the Baal Shem Tov said, no, this is from a different story. The Baal Shem Tov says, that a bracha that comes from just friends, which means a bracha that's given wholeheartedly, is so precious in Shemayim that it has more of an impact even than the defense angel Malach Michal. We know there's hardly, the Gemara says there are infinite angels, but who knows who they are and what they are. But there are a few angels that their names are mentioned in the Nevi'im, in the prophets, in Gemara. One of them is Malach Michal. Who is he? What is his mission? What is his function? He is considered the advocate for the Jewish people. Just like there's the other side, the Satan, who's there to prosecute Chas v'Shalom, he's there to defend. So imagine, he's the angel in Shemayim that defends the whole Jewish nation. So he says that when one Yidden are there together and one gives the other one a heartfelt blessing, then it has more power than the defense arguments of Malach Michal. They got up and they all gave him a bracha and he was cured. And I think the point here is when it's given with real heartfelt feelings, with Ahavas Yisrael, then it has a whole different kind of an impact. Of course, the bracha is a bracha regardless. There was a story that was publicized recently, and the person tells the story that he went to a wedding in Montreal, and he came by car, and when he got there, he had a flat. And he has a wedding to go to, he doesn't know how to fix a flat, he doesn't know the place, what is he gonna do? There was a shul on the block. He walks into the shul, and he asks, is there anybody here maybe that can help me? I have a car with a flat, and where do I go? What do I do? Who do I call? So somebody there said, I'll help you. He went out and he actually fixed the flat. He was very grateful to him because it was way down so heavy on him. He's not going to get to the wedding, he won't be able to do things. And he offered him money and he wouldn't take any money. It's a mitzvah. And all they could say was, listen, if you ever come to New York and you ever need anything, this is my card, this is my number, please call me. I'll be ready to do anything for you because you have no idea how grateful I am to you. But then he said, is there anything I can do for you now? Anything? The person thinks for a second and says, well, we're married for many years. We don't have any children. Give me a bracha to have children. So he closed his eyes, and with his whole heart and soul, he gave him a bracha to have a child. And a year later, he got a phone call from this person, and he said to him, he forgot about the story. The person said to him that a baby was born after many years of not having children. And like the person says, listen, I'm not a tzaddik, I'm not a hidden tzaddik, I'm just a regular guy. But because he gave the bracha with his whole heart, he felt so grateful to this person, it had an effect. When one Yid gives a bracha to another Yid. That's why is it? Alter Rebbe explained why this is. He explained that the reason is because Hashem is our Father and we are His children. And that's what it says in the Torah in many places. And we know that parents do everything for their children. The one thing that disturbs parents more than anything else is when the children don't get along with each other. When children are fighting with each other, that's very painful. And the greatest pleasure parents could have as parents in context of being parents is when to see that their children are getting along with each other, love each other, help each other. There's no greater, deeper pleasure than that. So therefore, when a Yid gives a heartfelt bracha to another Yid, and Hashem sees that, this is something which gives Hashem so much pleasure that Hashem will sort of look over all the reasons that there might be some sort of a problem here, and with the greatest love, give the person the bracha that they need. And that's the way it's supposed to be with Ahavas Yisrael. And the Frierdiker Rebbe says, the reason why I'm telling you this is because he wanted to describe himself. And he said that he went through, we know all the torture in Russia, he was in the jails and what they did to him. And he said after all that, he really wanted to settle and just sort of relax. Imagine what he went through. We know that he was in a wheelchair at a very young age, all the result of all the suffering that he went through. But on the other hand, hearing these words, that a Yid could come down to this world just to do one favor to another Yid, he realized he has a mission to come to America and to help Yid in Begashmias, help Yid in Baruchnias, and therefore he made the decision here to come. This is a sikh which he gave when he was here in America in 1945. So this is one thing. Another thing, which is connected to this, is a letter from the Frierdiker Rebbe, where he writes to someone who wrote him that in his shul, he always says a Mamar, Chassidus, but he's stopping because the people that come, they don't really get it. They don't understand. And it's just a waste. What's the point? That's what he writes to the Frierdiker Rebbe. So the Frierdiker Rebbe writes back to him that this decision to stop saying the Mamar is a wrong decision. And just because there are people there that they don't get it, and it's not suitable for them, therefore you should prevent those that could get something out of it not to hear. That's not the right way to work it. That's number one. Number two, even these people that you say that they really don't understand Chassidus and it's a waste of time and there's no purpose and there's no benefit in talking to them. So the Frierdiker Rebbe says, who are we to make such judgment? Who Chassidus will affect? Who Chassidus won't affect? In fact, the Alter Rebbe says that every Yid is a child to Hashem, and explains in Tanya, in the second chapter in Tanya, one of the first teachings is that a child comes from the brain of the father, and a Yid comes from Hashem's Chachma. How much love is expressed in these words? We see the Alter Rebbe's love and respect for every Yid. That a Yid comes from the highest level of Chachmilah of Hashem. And therefore, he says to this Chassid, that even if there's somebody there that, according to your judgment, they're far from Chassidus and there's no purpose to Chassidus, so if they're far, we should leave them that way, they should remain far. On the contrary, then you have to do everything you possibly can to bring them in closer, and that they should be able to receive and listen and understand the Maimon Chassidus. Plus the fact that the truth of the matter is that when you say Chassidus, it's for the neshama. And every Yid has a neshama, regardless what he looks like on the outside, but internally he has a neshama, and the neshama hears everything you're saying. And then the Frierdiker Rebbe concludes with these words, which is a little bit different than what it said, a little bit more than what it says now, Yom Yom, that the Baal Shem Tov said, in order to do a favor to another Yid, Begashmius and specifically Beruchnius, one should have Mesiras Nefesh. Not only it's a good thing to do a favor, then he says the second thing, that a neshama could come down for 70, 80 years to do one favor to another person. In other words, in this case, it really is Mesiras Nefesh for the neshama. The neshama up there has a much better time and is living in a very beautiful spiritual place, in a spiritual space completely. Comes down here, deals with all the challenges. It's a big descent. Sometimes it fails, but it's all worth it because of that one time that he's going to do a favor to another Yid. That's why the neshama comes down to this world. So certainly we should have Mesiras Nefesh if there's an opportunity to do a favor to another Yid, and it requires effort. I have to sort of bend a little bit, I have to go out of my way a little bit. Not only going out of my way a little bit is the right thing, but even Mesiras Nefesh, going out of my way a lot, is what really should be happening when the issue at hand is doing a favor to another Yid. And this is not only a favor Baruchnis, even just a simple favor Begashmis. And then I want to conclude with this. This is a beautiful letter. It's just a pity that you can't read it in the Hebrew because there's no way I can translate the way the Frierdiker Rebbe writes it. Every word is a gem, but I'll just try my best to translate. And he is describing the following. He says, in the winter of 1913, I went to visit my father. I went to visit my father, who was in the city of Menton in France. We know the Rebbe Rashab physically had health issues, and he would go there because that was a place that would helped him with his health. So he went to this place, and every single day for a few hours, he would go for walks with his father by the water, by the river. And he said, I heard things that no one ever heard, things about our Rabbeim, what they did, things that were given over from Rebbe to Rebbe that were never publicized to anyone else, stories of what happened with them communicating with the Rebbes of previous generations, which was never publicized, and also a lot about things in Chassidus, which you didn't hear at other occasions. I was there for 2 weeks. And then he said, amongst the things that he spoke about was the milah of thinking thoughts of Chassidus before davening. This is more for the men than for the women. That what's required is that before a person starts davening, to meditate on something in Chassidus. And mainly to do it while you're wearing the talis and while you're wearing the tefillin. And he spoke to the Frierdiker Rebbe and said to him that you have no idea what the mile is, what the benefit is of something like this. And he gave him a list of 7 benefits that one will have from doing this, thinking about a subject of Chassidus. We're not talking about learning, just thought, a subject of Chassidus while I'm sitting with my talis and tefillin before I start davening. A, it refines the body and makes the mind and the heart a vessel for godliness. B, it chases away the nefesh habahamis. The third thing is it washes out the nefesh hativis, the natural soul. And the fourth thing is that it brings the intellectual soul to be dedicated to Hashem. There are 3 terms here. This is not the place to go into it, but apparently these are 3 levels, even in the animal soul. One is called the animal soul, one is called the natural soul, and one is called the intellectual soul. Yes. The 3, one is the animal soul. By the way, they're all 3 names for the same soul, but different aspects of it. One is the animal soul, one is the natural soul, and the third and the highest is the intellectual soul. So it says it chases away the animal soul. That must be the most coarse, animalistic part of the animal soul. It washes the natural soul, which is probably a more refined part of the animal soul. And it brings the intellect of the animal soul to be dedicated to higher things, to Hashem. Number 5, he said, as a yid trach sidis and talis and tefillin van davenen, wer de Welt lichtiker. When a yid is sitting with his talis and tefillin and thinking thoughts of Chassidus before davening, the whole world becomes brighter, has an impact on the whole world. Number 6, not only does it have an impact on this world, it has an impact on bringing more revealed godliness in all the worlds, from the highest of the worlds to the lowest of the worlds. Number 7, this lights up the nefesh, ruach, neshama, and chaya, yechida of the person who's doing it, which means that the deeper dimensions of my soul light up. And number 8, mishana es etzem teva midaisav, it actually changes the essence of my natural character traits. You can probably spend 8 weeks explaining each one of these 8 things, but it's bringing out the how phenomenal it is to spend time wearing talis and tefillin, thinking Chassidus before davening. Look at these amazing things that it says just when you read the outline. He said this applies to everybody and anybody. Right, tzaddikim, all these things are even on a higher level. And then he went on to describe the level of tzaddikim, and he went very much in depth into it and elaborated on it. And he said that a person could reach a place where they just sort of, I don't know the right word for it in English, almost like they're just melting away with divine pleasure, with godly pleasure. And the Frierdiker Rebbe says, with Hashem's help, I will never, ever forget that bright moment, looking at my father's face, Kodesh HaKadoshim, how he was so deep concentrated on these words, Aget Lechazizkeit, a divine pleasure. And then I really understood, and I saw it with my eyes, what Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, that tzaddikim are a merkava, they're a chariot, that not even one moment goes by that their minds and their hearts is not connected to Hashem. Imagine, we're walking, where are we walking? We're walking in a place where you see the beauty of nature by the river, in this most beautiful natural setting, And what is my father into? The Noyim Elokei, the divine pleasure. And that's what he's thinking about, and that's what he's feeling. Something like this you can only see by a Rebbe, the son of a Rebbe, the grandson of a Rebbe. And it was just amazing to look at it. I'll never forget that for the rest of my life. And he says, we're walking, and all the people that pass us are looking at my father. They don't understand who he is, what he is, but they see there's something bright, something shining. It was the godly light that was shining. Suddenly, my father turns to me. It was as if he sort of woke up from sleep, and he says, Yosef Yitzchak, listen, everything I just told you about wearing talis and tefillin before davening and thinking chassidus, the way I described it for ordinary people, and the way I elaborated on this about tzaddikim, you should know, this is all insignificant to the Maila if Hashem gives you the gift that you actually enjoy doing a favor to another you. So all these 8 things that I mentioned before are nothing compared to this gift that you can have, that you actually enjoy. You have a pleasure helping another person, to the point that the other person is even more precious to you than yourself. And he mentions what it says in Heichaltzu, because when you look at yourself, you could think maybe it's happening to me because I did this wrong or that wrong. When you look at another Yid, chas v'sholem, you don't look at them in a negative way. So therefore, you can only feel for them, for their suffering. And when you do a favor to another Yid, the famous Vart of the Baal Shem Tov, that he said this, we know this from Rabbi Mordechai, who was one of his outstanding students. He was the one responsible for spreading Hasidus in White Russia. And he said that the neshama comes down to this world, lives for 70, 80 years, and it's all to do a favor one time to a Yid, Begashmis, and specifically Baruchos. So, it's a good thing to do a favor to another Yid. And not only a good thing, but he says this is the greatest gift a person could have. If Hashem gives you the gift that you actually enjoy, you have pleasure in helping another person. Because we know sometimes someone asks for help and the person says, sure, and they roll their eyes while they say sure, and you're thinking, oh no, I'm not going to ask them again for any favors. This is different. This is the pleasure. Like the Friedrich Rebbe describes what true Ahavas Yisrael is, that you're walking down the street and you're thinking about all your troubles. Everyone has their peklach of troubles. This one has no parnasa, someone is sick, this is that, you're down, and suddenly you see a friend of yours. Ahavas Yisrael means you suddenly just burst with a feeling of love and pleasure that you met this person, that you forget about everything that was going on. Today, the Friedrich Rebbe says a little bit different. When people say Shalom Aleichem, it sounds more like Tzeichem L'Shalom than Shalom Aleichem. And we tell the angels, okay, now goodbye.
Rabbi, I missed number 4.
Okay, but if you have Ahavas Yisrael, you got the main thing.
That's true, because my next question was, well, women don't wear talis and tefillin, but you just answered that by saying it's higher if you enjoy doing something for another year.
Right. Number 4 was about the intellectual soul, that this brings the intellectual soul to be dedicated to godliness.
Okay. Well, I thought that was number 3. It chases the animal soul. It washes
Wait a second, no,
natural
you
soul.
forgot the first one. The first one is the guf. It refines the guf. The mind and the heart, actually the physical organ, the mind and the heart become more refined. The next 3 are the animal soul.
Got it.
The animal soul, the natural soul, the intellectual soul. And then later it talks about the godly soul. Nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, yechidim.
Right. Got it. What's the name of the moment?
This is actually a letter, not a maimon.
Oh,
It's a letter of the Friedrich Rebbe. I doubt if it was translated in English. The truth is, remember I gave this out to you. What did I give out to you? Oh, the mimer of, what did I give you with English translation just recently?
the memory.
Reading the Torah also.
But knowing it by heart?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was the only thing?
yeah.
Oh, I might have missed something there.
I think I saw recently somewhere where they alluded to that. I don't think it was an actual translation,
Okay.
but they alluded to it.
So what year was it? Or
This is well, it says that this was the winter of 1913, but I guess this, what I'm holding now, must have been printed before they had the letters of the Friedrich Rebbe printed. Otherwise, this must be printed in the Friedrich Rebbe's letters. But we can look it up because the letters of the Friedrich Rebbe that are printed are in the order of years.
Okay.
So I don't know. No, it doesn't say when he wrote this letter. No.
Okay.
We should have on staff somebody who just translates things into English when we get to one of these things.
Yeah, should be fine.
Yeah. Okay, so next week, we're starting from Monday, Mirz Hashem, we're going to learn about Shavuos al pi Chassidus.
Good.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay. You're very welcome.